Today I want to discuss what I think is the most important FNAF game that is crucial to figuring out the modern lore that has completely disappeared. The current state of Five Nights at Freddy's is very confusing. If you're new to the franchise and decide to pick up the latest game to see if you can figure out the story, you're going to be very lost. If you then decide to pick up the VR game, you're going to more vaguely understand what's going on, but largely you will still be lost. So then you decide to pick up every FNAF game that came prior, and you learn more about the story that came before, but as far as the story that came after, you're still lost. Then you hear there's FNAF novels. 23 books and about $245 later, you're even more lost than before. But there's one game that could better help you understand some key components of Security Breach. But 1 year ago this month, it got abandoned. And that's FNAF AR. FNAF AR, and especially the period of time when FNAF AR came out, was so weird for me. Even as one of the more hardcore FNAF fans, I kind of skipped this game. When it came out, I downloaded it and played it for a few minutes, but after that, I never returned. It was a cool concept for a game, but it wasn't really my cup of tea. But the game definitely had its fair share of fans. The Twitter for FNAF AR seemed to be thriving, and people seemed to really like the new skins and characters being added to the game. But as time went on, people started to get more weary of the game, mostly because of the lack of characters and the pricey microtransactions. Near the end of 2021, the Dark Circus event was announced, and at this point, Illumix's replies were filled with hate and critique, citing bugs in the game, lack of new characters, and those pricey microtransactions. Then, 1 year ago this month, the FNAF AR Twitter went silent. No more updates, no more skins, and no more tweets. From an outsider perspective, it seemed to me that they were sick of the backlash. Making new content for FNAF AR at that point was a thankless job, so why even keep going? Even to this day, whenever Illumix makes a post on their non-FNAF account, they get bombarded with replies asking about FNAF AR. If you go to Illumix's website, scroll down to the bottom and hit the FNAF AR tab, you're met with this. So what happened? Did Illumix abandon development? Was the hate too much for them, or was the game simply just meant to be a temporary thing? Let's get into what I think is the most important FNAF game right now that has disappeared. Like I explained in my modern FNAF Timeline video, FNAF AR was filled with a ton of lore. So much so that the Ultimate Guide said that FNAF AR is a quote massive expansion of game lore. FNAF AR came out 6 months after FNAF Help Wanted on November 25th, 2019. The timeline of the release of FNAF AR actually perfectly lines up with the timeline of the lore. Once you open up FNAF AR, they make it very clear that something is wrong. It seems that a glitch has infected the Fazbear Funtime delivery service. The game congratulates you for being selected for their new Funtime service.
Congratulations! You've been selected for our newest service.
But the glitch then reveals it to actually be the Eternal service, which will forever send killer animatronics to your door. After you accept the service, the glitch becomes more present, as seen by the scrambled text and audio. The lore that follows in this game is what makes it so important. The meat of the lore comes from the emails that are served to the player through their inbox. The emails consist of a bunch of different storylines. One that has to do with a shipping company called DLZ Shipping Solutions, another that has to do with the team scanning a virus into their system, and finally one that shows two Fazbear Entertainment employees, Ness and Lewis, having a conversation. This lore is super important to understanding some key factors about Security Breach and Help Wanted. Although I do think you could make an argument that you could completely skip FNAF AR and still understand how Vanny came to be. FNAF AR just gives us more detail about what happened when Vanessa was getting infected with the virus. In the conversation between Vanessa and Lewis, Lewis shares some concerns regarding Vanessa's search history, which relates to what happened to her in Help Wanted. Through the behavior outlined by Lewis, we can see her slow descent into madness and into the control of glitchtrap. At the end of their conversation, Lewis brings up the fact that Vanessa is making a costume. Vanessa making that costume comes up in the FNAF AR emails, the end of the Curse of Dreadbear, and the last Vanessa CD in Security Breach.
You purchased some fake fur material. What are you gonna make?
This is how we know that the emails in FNAF AR and the retro CDs in Security Breach all happened during Help Wanted. In all three of the instances where Vanessa making the costume is brought up, that is the last we hear of her. That's because we learn in the retro CDs that Vanessa was then hired at the mall.
I'm needed somewhere else now. Thank you.
All of this is to say that I don't think Vanessa's the reason that FNAF AR is the most important FNAF game, at least right now. There is one thing that appears in Security Breach that I don't think would be there without FNAF AR, and you wouldn't find an explanation for without playing FNAF AR, and that's the blob. One of the groups of emails we get in FNAF AR has to do with DLZ Shipping Solutions sending a delivery of animatronics to the Pizzaplex. Once again, you see direct evidence that this happened in Security Breach. The Afton glitch in FNAF AR wants you to collect as much remnant remnant as possible and pump your animatronics full of it. We then see that a delivery was made to the Pizzaplex by DLZ Shipping Solutions, who I believe to be the same people who sent out the animatronics in FNAF AR. During the conversation between Jimmy and Lisa, Lisa specifically says that the Bonnie animatronic is acting up and begs Jimmy to take the shipment back. There's no way that FNAF 1 Bonnie is still around, since we literally see Foxy's rusted torso in the display case in Rockstar Row. That's why I believe that the animatronics that were sent to the mall were meant to be on display and are also the FNAF AR animatronics. Since we learned that the animatronics featured in FNAF AR are not the originals, they're replicas made by Fazbear Entertainment. These animatronics, pumped full of remnant, are then used to bring Afton back to life. So what is the blob? Well, like I said in my timeline video, in FNAF AR, it's your job to collect as much remnant as possible. But while you're collecting it, there's shadowy remnant surrounding it. So inevitably, you collect the shadowy remnant along with it. The more remnant you collect, the more shadowy remnant you collect. So I believe the blob is the FNAF AR animatronics floating in a big amalgamation of shadowy remnant. If you want more on that theory, I recommend watching my timeline video after this one. Now let's get into my problem with modern FNAF lore and why I think FNAF AR was so easily overlooked from a story standpoint. First of all, I want to say that I respect everyone involved with FNAF AR, and I don't condone sending hate to them. This is just me giving my opinion on the lore elements of the game. Every single FNAF game that has ever came out has one thing in common. All of the story that Scott intended to share was shown at once. I can start and finish playing FNAF 4 right now without interruption and experience everything Scott intended for us to see. FNAF AR was the first game to stray from that. My problem, and the reason why I think the lore in FNAF AR was easily overlooked, is because the game feeds you the lore over time rather than it being in an all-in-one package. You can't sit down and play through FNAF AR in one sitting. It's a time commitment. And I think having to constantly play a mobile game every day to try and figure out what is going on with the story is a big ask for a lot of people, especially when you're being bombarded with pricey in-game purchases. Even if you don't want to play the game and watch other YouTubers play it, who knows if that YouTuber will even open all of the emails and find all of the lore, since it's such a big time commitment and not an all-in-one package game. Also, the game at least was constantly updating, so YouTubers' playthroughs became constant and never-ending. Never mind that some of the most important emails that have to do with the lore were not even officially released in the game and had to be dug up in the source code. I mean, the literal email chain that has a direct reference in Security Breach with the Remember Jimmy sticky note was never officially released in FNAF AR. Those emails were scrapped and presumably found in the source code. So to figure out what the heck is going on with the blob, fans either have to find the scrapped content online or watch YouTubers like me find it and figure it out for them. The point is, if you're a newcomer to the series, FNAF in its current state is not easy to understand. Yes, you can play the games and understand vaguely what is going on, but if you ever want to dig deeper into why and how things are happening, it starts to get very expensive and time consuming. Honestly, the Ultimate Guide is one of the best things that's come out of this franchise recently. If you're going to buy any FNAF book, I recommend that one. It has a couple small inaccuracies in it, but overall it's a great way to get updated on what's important and what's going on. The book even shows you all of the emails in FNAF AR. I wouldn't be surprised if the book was made for the sole purpose of cleaning up the mess that was FNAF AR. Anyways, make sure to subscribe, and once again, I mean this all with peace and love. Bye!